Today on CityCast Nashville, we're digging into why a local labor union is supporting the preservation of the Fairgrounds Racetrack. I'm joined by the business manager of LIUNA Local 386, Ethan Link, who says the alternative affordable housing proposal is not all it seems to be for neighborhood residents or members of his union. It's Monday, August 24th. I'm Rachel Iacovone, and this is what Nashville's talking about. The battle over auto racing at the fairgrounds has created a lot of strange bedfellows. Ethan, you lead the Labor's Union Local 386 here in Middle Tennessee, or LIUNA. Why have your union members jumped into the fight to preserve the racetrack?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me, and by virtue of that, us, my membership, having a voice on this issue is really something we're honored by, because a lot of times when people make decisions about development in the city, they don't take into account the people that are most likely to be displaced, the most likely to be exploited, and those are the laborers in the city. My membership is very diverse. We live all across Davidson County and the adjoining counties. We're the most diverse building trade in the union movement. So we come to this not just as people that build things, but people that live here and care about what happens in this city. You know, one of the reasons that we are so passionate about this site is that for a lot of our membership, especially the ones who live in South Nashville and around Davidson County, this has been a place they grew up being welcomed to and bringing their families to. We've had a lot of members come to our meetings saying that this place matters to them, and also not only does this place matter to them, but that they're increasingly feeling left out of the culture and the development of the city. And so this is becoming one of the last places that they feel welcome as working class people to participate.
What's your own personal favorite memory of racing at the Nashville Fairgrounds?
I grew up going around to racetracks all around Middle Tennessee. My family was a Sterling Marlin family. One of the things that made a big impression on me, not only in my upbringing, but also the way that a lot of our members experience the fairgrounds, is that the people that race there right now a lot of times have working class jobs. They're not professional racers. They are people that do it on the weekends. And so, for instance, our local sponsors a car, and a local property maintenance worker drives it. He's changing air filters and light bulbs and fixing holes in walls most of his week. But on the weekends, he gets to be a little bit of a hero to himself and his community and his family out there racing.
There have been a lot of news stories about the future of the racetrack over the past few years. So let's break this down for folks who are still maybe confused about what's happening. There is currently a ballot amendment being proposed for November that would remove auto racing as a required use at the fairgrounds and replace that language with, quote, affordable and/or workforce housing. If the petition collects 50,000 signatures by September 18th, Nashville voters will have the opportunity to approve or deny the amendment during the November election. Meanwhile, we've heard allegations all summer long that the petition and its canvassers are using misleading language, and according to WKRN, racetrack supporters have been verbally harassing and in some cases even physically attacking petitioners. Ethan, why has this gotten so heated?
Anytime there's an important development question in a city like Nashville that's going through so much change, people are going to get passionate about it. And I can tell you my personal experience of going to the polls, the only encounter I've had with a petition signer. And it was polite, but my experience was that I was approached to be asked about this petition, and it was represented to me that the petition collector actually worked for Metro government. And I've clarified, you work for the city of Nashville, and they responded that they did. And so I think a lot of people are really frustrated and concerned that a really important decision about the future of a cultural site is being mediated by a large well-funded campaign with out-of-state and out-of-city petition collectors who probably are just poorly trained and don't know exactly what that they are promoting, but are doing so because they're being paid to do so.
Why has there been so much focus, though, on stopping the petition? Like, shouldn't we just let voters have the opportunity to make this choice?
That's a fair question, but voters actually in 2011 voted affirmatively to protect the uses, the original and intended uses of the fairground from a previous redevelopment attempt by a lot of the same consultants that are promoting this redevelopment attempt. Voters spoke overwhelmingly that they wanted to preserve this site and its uses. So it is more a question of, are we supposed to every 10 years have a referendum on the use of the fairgrounds or the use of Centennial Park or Bicentennial Park or the farmers market? I mean, what is the reasoning for doing that, except that this specific site is of specific value to a specific billionaire?
Could there be an argument that the population has changed in those 15 years in particular?
Absolutely. The population of South Nashville has changed dramatically and has gentrified. And so I don't want to see cultural gentrification be the next chapter of that, because I've got a lot of my members who used to live in South Nashville. One of my, the vice president of my executive board at my local, went to school at Fall Hamilton and saw the racetrack every day and loves it. Many of them have been displaced out of that community and into adjoining counties, but they still want to come back and be part of the culture that they treasure. But also the people that have moved into this neighborhood moved into a place where racing was a fact of life and a normal part of their day. And so it's not unlike moving next to, in North Nashville, moving next to where the TSU band performs, or any other site where you've got a cultural amenity that people treasure. You need to respect where you've moved to and the people that you've chosen to be your neighbors.
I feel I should disclose I actually live in this neighborhood, and I think from fellow renters, I'm mostly hearing like a lack of care anecdotally here, but it seems like homeowners might have the argument of, when I bought, I wasn't signing up for perhaps NASCAR right around the corner.
Yeah, something that should be understood, of course, is that a NASCAR race happens really infrequently on tracks like this. It's far less often that you're going to have a NASCAR race there than a soccer game, an NSC game. What you're going to have are local races. And what we have right now is a status quo that I don't think anybody is satisfied with, which is a facility that is dilapidated, that people who want to enjoy don't feel like they can enjoy with the same pride as it used to have. And also you've got residents who are hearing the races that they now live closer to. A redevelopment of the Speedway would include, and should include, from my view, noise mitigation that isn't there now. And so it should be not only that we have a better racing experience for people that care about this place, but also a better neighborhood experience for the people that live near it.
To explain the NASCAR concerns to our listeners for a moment here, the Nashville Super Speedway out in Lebanon is owned by Speedway Motorsports, Inc., a very wealthy racing enterprise that also owns and operates Bristol Motor Speedway and several other NASCAR tracks around the country. They are proposing to do a $60 million overhaul of the Fairgrounds racetrack to bring NASCAR back to the fairgrounds, including demolishing the current facilities to build a 30,000-seat grandstand, among other improvements. They're also from out of state, though. So are you in favor of that proposal?
So I think some of the details that you have are the proposal that was previously in front of the Metro Council under Mayor John Cooper. And there were some things about that proposal that weren't sufficient at that time for people to be supportive of at the council. I don't support, or LIUNA does not support a specific set of deal terms. I'm not privy to a specific set of deal terms, but what I am in support of and what LIUNA is in support of is the principles we've laid out in our Make Nashville Fair campaign, which, if your listeners have not heard of it, it's because we don't have billions of dollars to promote it. But if you go to makenashvillefair.com, you'll see that we've put together a series of important points that we want to see in any development deal that improves the racetrack. And that is not specific to Bristol or the NASCAR development or any developer. And we want to protect the Nashville Fairgrounds as a county-wide public space. We don't want to burden the Nashville taxpayer with additional cost, as some previous sports proposals have done. We don't want to do that. We want to reject development deals that hand control of public land to billionaires. And we want to hire local trained workforce to build any developments that happen. We also want to have a permanent workforce training center on site. That's not something that I've heard any specific developer promise, but it's something we want. Bringing working people back into South Nashville so that they can earn a good living and afford to stay in their community. We want to prioritize affordability, local culture, and long-term community benefit over profit seeking. So, no, we don't have a support of a specific deal. We support the principles of local people building and rebuilding a local community treasure.
Does LIUNA have a stake in the redevelopment of the racetrack property then?
So what I would say is that we are confident that a project like this would provide opportunity to local workers that alternative proposals simply don't. We are trained and skilled and have a history of performing good work on racetracks, on other facilities like this speedway. And so we know that we would be able to participate in a meaningful way to give people the work hours they need to afford to live in Nashville, insurance, a pension, things that are unheard of in the commercial and residential building space. So those are the kind of things that you get when you redevelop a racetrack. They're not the kind of things you get when, unfortunately, in this city, when you build standard commercial development with developers like Market Street.
We've been talking a lot about housing, and so I want to mention this interesting line in SMI's initial press release about their proposal. It had said, an apartment building which is located 20 feet from the track's entrance and would impede traffic flow of the racetrack is another remaining hurdle. In a city where we are struggling with the housing crisis, what's your response to an apartment building being called a hurdle in this context?
Well, what I know is that there are hundreds of acres of publicly owned land in this county that the consultants and the billionaires behind the petition campaign could offer to build affordable housing on, and they've chosen not to. And specifically, Market Street and their billionaire benefactors promised to build much more affordable housing than they already have on the Fairgrounds site and have not, and have used the Speedway as an excuse for why they have not made good on their promises, including a daycare, including micro units. I've been doing advocacy for affordable housing for almost 20 years in this city. And the reason I do is because it's the right thing to do, but also our members are being pushed out of the city. Our members that are custodians at Vanderbilt, their rent is going up and they're leaving the city. Pitting working class interests of feeding your family against your affordable housing goal is, in my opinion, a really cynical campaign.
Can I have you step back for a moment and clarify what Market Street is?
Market Street is a real estate development company tied to the soccer stadium development that has promised to build 3 different blocks of affordable housing on the Fairgrounds site. To this date, they have completed one of those sites. They have not made good on building the child care facility they promised years ago. They've not made good on the micro units that they promised so many years ago. The two things you would know in the public about Market Street is that they are the landlord for the incomplete affordable housing on the Fairgrounds site now. And the other thing you might know about them is that they are the developer associated with the data center near the Nashville Zoo. And so these are the folks that are interested in redeveloping a plot of land that now sits with the Speedway.
Market Street argues that they can't make any decisions about housing or daycare plans now that the prospect of a racetrack expansion is on the table, which, based on current noise and traffic concerns from residents, might make a lot of sense. So how would you respond to that?
Well, I would respond the same way as before, that any redevelopment that enhanced the Fairgrounds Speedway would have to, in my view, come with noise mitigation and additional parking. Anybody who's been to a Nashville SC game or a concert at the Geodis Park knows that there's a parking debacle over there already. So if improving the current facility is on the table, then that's a bargain that Nashville should take in order to improve the neighborhood environment as well as the racing environment.
If voters decide to replace racing with affordable housing in the charter, why wouldn't your union benefit from that? Wouldn't more units mean more housing opportunities for your members? And couldn't LIUNA be hired to build the housing in that case?
You know, that's a great question. Unfortunately, the affordable housing construction market here in Nashville, I hate to say, is largely fueled by exploited labor. A lot of the affordable housing that is built by for-profit developers like Market Street is 100%, if not close to 100% non-union. It is often performed by contractors who misclassify workers as independent contractors. And so unless a monumental set of conditions were put on a project like this, replacing a piece of cultural infrastructure like the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway with, quote, affordable and or workforce housing, which is a much higher threshold for affordability, doing that does not guarantee anybody great union jobs. In fact, in the status quo, it would mean a lot of the same contractors that exploit laborers every day in the city.
Is this issue something that's unique to Nashville?
It is not unique that in the South, residential construction is very exploitative. It is also not unique to Nashville that you have important questions of fairness, pitted against each other. And a lot of times billionaires will use the desire of a community for affordable housing, and they'll pit that against the desire of the community for good jobs. Unfortunately, my members get caught in the middle. There are places where that doesn't happen. There are cities, particularly in the Midwest and in the North, where we see affordable housing built with good union labor. But unfortunately, in the South, you see places like Tennessee where most of the protections that we would seek to have in a public development are preempted by state law. And so I've fought for many years for laws that would protect workers on construction projects, only to see them preempted at the state level. And so, our best opportunity to get good union jobs is to find willing partners in the private sector who support those values. And I believe we found that in many places around the country. And working on racetracks happens to be one of the markets where you can get good union jobs and you can feed a family.
Ultimately, do you see a version of this situation where everyone is satisfied with the result?
I believe so. I mean, if everyone is inclusive of the majority or the supermajority of Nashville residents. You saw in 2011 that a vast majority of Nashville residents were already satisfied with the current uses of the fairgrounds. Have things in the neighborhood changed? Perhaps, but I'm pretty confident that things around the county have not changed. And one reason is that LIUNA, with our own resources, did our own polling to determine whether the majority of Nashvillians agreed with us, and we found that they did.
Can I ask when that polling was conducted?
We did a poll in August of 2025 that showed strong support for the preservation of the Speedway and even the enhancement of it, the renovation. After several months of campaigning and talking to neighborhoods and talking to people at their doors and online, we decided we needed to get an update on that research. So we did a second poll in March of 2026. These are independent polls that were done by our membership, their resources, no corporate money involved. And so we found strong support, solidly more than 50% of people were not only supportive of the racetrack itself, but of the redevelopment of it. What we also found, importantly, was that people around the county viewed this as a countywide asset, a cultural institution that whether they lived in North Nashville, whether they lived in Antioch, whether they lived in West Nashville, a place that they felt was theirs. That is a really significant data point, because as we're having this conversation, of course, neighbors should be taken into account, but also the entire community of Nashville owns this facility and enjoys it.
If a NASCAR proposal ends up on the table and it doesn't include the community benefits agreement and other stipulations you were mentioning earlier, how will LIUNA respond?
Oh, I mean, we'll respond the way that we have with every development proposal that's come before the Metro government that does not take workers into account. We would oppose a proposal that burdens taxpayers. LIUNA would fundamentally be opposed to any development that would exclude good union labor in favor of exploiting the laborers here in Nashville. We would oppose any project that, trampled on the community in the way that we believe the billionaires behind the petition signature gathering campaign have done. Yeah, we would oppose a project that didn't support working people, plainly.
Thank you so much for joining us and explaining it from your perspective and LIUNA's.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. And I thank you so much again for hearing working people's voice in a city that frequently leaves us out. So thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. Best of Nashville voting is open for just 2 more days. We would love to have your vote as best podcast. Go to vote.nashvillescene.com and find us in the media and politics category. You've got to vote in 20 categories for it to count, so be sure to spread the love. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our CityCast Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Pa'lante!